Here's a video on how to change out an outlet receptacle. Right here I have a 20 amp receptacle, which is not code because it's on a 15 amp line, and I'll show you how you can determine that. So I've got my 15 amp outlet, as you can see right there in the bottom, and I'm going to replace that, and I'll show you how to do that step by step. Here's everything you're going to need for this job. Besides a new receptacle, you'll need a receptacle tester or some kind of electrical tester to check to ensure there's no power going to the line. I like using these because it does both showing if there's power to the line as well as showing you if it's wired correctly. And then lastly, you'll need a screwdriver with both a phillips and a flathead bit. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to get started. And I want to emphasize the major disclaimer that I'm not an electrician, that this video is mostly for entertainment purposes. Electricity is dangerous and can kill you, so if you don't feel safe working around it, then I strongly would recommend getting an electrician. But anyway, with that disclaimer, let's continue forward. First thing we'll do here is plug in our receptacle tester. So as you can see here, the two lights on the right side indicate that it's wired correctly. So we'll double check both, top and bottom, before we get started. Great. So that's helpful. So we can leave this in and go shut off the breaker. That will let us know if the power is off. If you have one of those non-contact voltage pens, that's also really helpful just to double check. And the other nice thing is knowing that it's correctly wired beforehand. When we take out this receptacle, we can take a picture or draw or whatever is helpful for you to remember exactly where those wires go, so that when you put it all back, you don't have to stress about if you did it correctly and having to redo everything. So that's really helpful. So now that we know that both of these, the top and the bottom of this receptacle, are wired correctly, we can go shut off the power. All right, so I'm out in my garage at my service panel, and none of these are marked, but you might be fortunate enough to actually know which all of these go to. I know that that circuit is number 12, so I just flip my breaker to the right, and that will shut it off. And this is how you determine what how many amps that circuit gets. So this one gets 15, and I had a 20 amp circuit or 20 amp receptacle on there, so I know that that's wrong, needs to be replaced. So yeah, that's how you determine that. And let's go back in and start working on that outlet. We're back at our outlet, and as you can see, no lights on, so there's no power going to this outlet. So we can get started. First thing we're going to do is take off this cover plate with our flathead. All right, cover plate off. So now we can undo these two Phillips screws that hold the outlet into, or hold the receptacle into the box. So now, with it unscrewed from the box, you can just carefully pull it forward and check out our connections. So I will make one note. So far we're pretty confident that the electricity is off, but another helpful tool that you can have, again I'll link this in the description box below, is one of these non-contact voltage pens, which if you just push the on button and tap the wires, tap all around in the box on the screws, that will help you to know if there's any power. And if you hear beeping or this light turns red, you'll know that there's electricity. So there's not, so we're good to work on the box. All right, so now is the time to either take some pictures, draw, honestly, whatever works best for you to make sure you remember where these electrical connections go. So as we can see, there's one black wire going to the gold screw on this side, and then if we look on the other side, one white wire, and then our ground. So pretty simple. Sometimes your boxes might look more like a rat's nest. This is a very kind of simple wiring setup, so there's not too much going on here. Regardless, it's helpful just to have a picture so you don't forget where things go, but honestly, it's pretty straightforward going from here. Gold, or these brass screws, excuse me, are where the hot side goes to, and your neutral or white wire will go into these silver screws, and the ground will go into this screw on the bottom. And looking at my new receptacle, just as it might be helpful, as you can see, it says hot wire goes on the brass side, and then your white wire or your neutral goes on these silver screws, and then your ground goes there. So that's a helpful reminder in case you do forget. But anyway, let's start opening up these, unscrewing these screws and taking off the wires. With your new outlet, you'll want to slide the screw, or specifically working on the hot side, so the black wire, over that gold screw, and we want it such that the hook, the loop, is facing in, because this screw tightens down toward the right. And what you want to do is when you tighten these screws, you want to ensure that the loop is going in the direction of your tightening, so that as you tighten this down, the wire gets tighter on as the screws cinches down on that wire, it tightens it up. If the loop was facing the other way, it wouldn't ensure a tight connection. So just make sure that the loop is going in the direction that you're turning the screw. And you really want to pull this tight, make sure that screw is not, or that wire is not coming off, and just tighten it down. So I'll do that now. Double check your connections, make sure everything's tight on both sides. Really push down on that screwdriver to ensure those screws are tight. And what we'll do is we'll just start screwing this into the box a little bit, just so we can put the electrical tester in it. Alright, and then we'll put our receptacle tester in and go turn on the power to ensure that we wired it correctly. And as we can see, the top side is correctly wired. If you don't feel comfortable pulling it out and putting it in the bottom, turn off the power and then move this down. But there you go. Both the top and the bottom are wired correctly. And now we can, I would recommend shutting off the power so that we can tighten down these screws on the top and the bottom, put our faceplate cover on, and we're done. Alright, power's off. So now we can just tighten up the top and the bottom screws. I like to just put the screw horizontally just to make it look nice. Doesn't really matter. And that is how you replace an receptacle. If you like this video, please give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you like content like this, and feel free to ask any questions below if you have any. And I will see you in the next video.